Welcome to the Whole Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you become a fat burner, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the WHOLESTIC Method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey everybody, it's Debbie Potts doing a new episode of the Whole Athlete Podcast, special Thursday edition that I'm calling Real Thoughts with Debbie Potts. So this is about me sharing some information that I'm learning or hearing about, or just thoughts that I have in my head that I want to share with you. So what I'm finding is that there's a lot of news out there about fasting and intermittent fasting. And today I want to talk about the low-carb athlete and metabolic efficiency. And part of that is my WHOLESTIC Method 30-day transformation program that I'm teaching you fasting and one meal a day and how to become a low-carb, metabolically efficient athlete, as we should all be burning fat sitting here listening to and hearing the years and years of fat is bad for us, fat causes heart disease, fat causes this disease, that disease. Well, it's what kind of fat we eat that makes a difference, right? So to be fat adapted athlete, the low carb performing athlete, metabolically efficient athlete, means that we are using the fuel stored in our fat tank versus our carbohydrate tank. So think of it as a car. I was writing in my blog on this topic that if we're driving our car on a road trip, and if you fill your gas tank up with your carbohydrate tank fuel to fill up your tank with carbohydrate fuel, instead of using the other type of gas that's available, your fat fuel, well, you're going to have to stop a lot on your road trip to keep refilling that tank because it keeps getting emptied out on your road trip. So you're just doing a nice steady state cruise. If you're using the fuel from your fat tank, your gas from the fat stores, you will be able to go a longer duration without having to refill that tank in your car. So obviously take that scenario, that example, and put it towards your own body and your activity and at rest. We should be tapping into that fat storage. But instead, most of us are carbohydrate burners, sugar burners, because we grew up consuming a high carbohydrate diet. If you go back and read my book, if you could please enjoy Life is Not a Journey. Whoops, I said that wrong. Life is not a journey. Life is not a race. It is a journey. I shared my reflection, my own life. Where did this chronic stress come from? And as I went through my lifetime, I identified sources of stress, red flags that I ignored along my journey. And part of that was experiencing a high carb diet before I'd go for a workout, and I would never lose weight. I could not figure out why I was having this healthy orange juice and eating bagels all day, having bananas as I thought I should. And this is way back in 2001 when I started doing Ironmans, and before that I started doing marathons. 1998, something back like that, back then. And I find that I damaged my own body eating this high carb, non-fat diet way back, in high school and college. And after that, because I was afraid of fat making me fat, which is the exact opposite that Now we know that healthy fats, good source natural fats, are essential fatty acids that our body needs, that our cells need, our heart needs, our brain needs. And we need to reintroduce those into our body, and along that ride, get rid of the processed garbage and get rid of the breads and grains and the processed foods and the refined sugars that are causing us dysfunction and leading us to be these sugar burners. So in my blog I wrote on debbiepotsnet.net, I wrote, are you the fat adapted athlete or the carb adapted athlete? Now, think about it. Over the years, if you go back to the archives of the podcast on my website, you'll find Fit Fat Fast podcast that John Smith and I started back in 2011 or 12. And we talked a lot about eating fat to burn fat and going low carb. And we did a lot of episodes on metabolic efficiency, so I can send you those links if you can't find them. So think about that example I started this show on. If you are going on a road trip, which gas are you going to put in your tank? The fat or the carbohydrates? If you only have about 1,600 to 2,000 calories of stored carbohydrates in mostly your muscles, a little bit in your liver, that's about 400 to 500 grams of stored muscle glycogen. On the other hand, we have 40,000 to 80,000 calories of stored fat fuel for energy. So fat, as you know, perhaps, it's 9 calories per gram. So you're going to get a lot more energy from fat, more calories, more energy. So it's a slow burn energy when we tap into those fat cells, metabolize fat for fuel. And we should be doing that, as I said, during rest and during exercise. But if our blood sugar and insulin stay low in our ideal range, say 70 to 90 of fasted morning blood sugar reading, then we hopefully avoid the activation of carbohydrate usage. So as I say, as a nutritional therapy practitioner, your main goal to burn fat and become fat adapted is to avoid the blood sugar roller coaster, and thus result of that is that insulin surges. When your blood sugar goes up, the hormone insulin is released from the pancreas, and it's going to help lower your blood sugar levels, usually going too low. And then that often leads to insulin resistance, that your cells are not getting the glucose into them. They become resistant to that key, the insulin, to open up that door into that cell. So we get higher blood sugar, leading to type 2 diabetes. So I would think it's all of our goal, if you're at whatever level of athlete, we're all athletes at some level, that we should be balancing our blood sugar and tapping into those fat stores for our energy source, so we can go on that long road trip and not have to refuel all the time. Go for a long hike, a bike ride, a race, whatever it might be, we should be fat burning machines. Now, if you eat too many carbohydrates, you're probably getting that body to only know how to access carbohydrates for fuel, causing you to be continuously refeeding, and obviously you might have more challenging of a time to lose weight, to get into those fat cells. So if you find that you have to eat periodically throughout the day, every few hours, you are probably a sugar burner. If you can eat a meal that, as I said, real food, nutrient-dense foods we suggest as nutritional therapists, and whatever ratio of fat, carbohydrates, and protein of real food sources, not the junk type, processed foods, we should be balancing our blood sugar, so we, in result, should feel full, satisfied, and reduced or eliminate those cravings for sugar. Now, I can feel full after a big main meal in mid-afternoon for the rest of the day and be really not even have an appetite, just feel satisfied. So if you don't feel like you finish that meal and you're still hungry, I have a blog somewhere on my website that shows signs and symptoms of eating the wrong mix of fat, carbs, and protein. So if you feel like you're still not full, I know a lot of people that go to eating lower carb, higher fat end up, or we're doing the one meal a day and then doing liquids the rest of the day on my challenge, that they get this diet plate that's just puny little plate of half a avocado and a little piece of chicken and some lettuce. And, you got to make it more filling and satisfying, adding more healthy fat. So if you're still not full and satisfied, experiment with how much fat you need, and maybe you need more protein. So you should feel full. Don't make it a little diet plate, because this is not a diet. We are talking about a new lifestyle, which is a side note. I don't like counting macros forever. I dieted a lot growing up in high school, college, and I hate counting calories and writing down my food and testing my blood sugar every day, because then you get obsessed with it and then it's just another diet, even though it's good, real food. But why don't you go by how you feel? Do a 30-day challenges I have my clients do in our new online program, and take your blood sugar, take your ketone test if you'd like, and let's just track that and figure out how much food you need to feel energized, feel full, happy, not tired and hungry. Then at least 30 days, and then you can wean off of that, and then you know what works for you, because we are all bio individuals. I got to say that every show. There's not one program that fits all. So you are different. You can eat different foods than I can eat. We are all unique. So don't compare what I'm doing to what you're doing to what someone else on your Facebook page said they lost all this weight by eating such and such ratio of foods. It's different for everybody. And our activity level, our sleep, and our stress, and our movement during the day, all of the elements of the holistic method are what are going to be helping you work on your unique areas of opportunity and your goals and your health concerns to help you become a fat burner, not a sugar burner. It's not just what we eat, but how we eat, when we eat, and also our stress levels and sleeping. So there's lots to talk about, so I'm going to keep on track, because I could go off on another tangent and talk about not eating before bed, 3 to 4 hours. I have people stop eating, and all this stuff I've been doing with my own just experience. And it's been a couple of years since I've started my 5-day jumpstart, and 10 years I've done the 21-day program. Now I made it all into a whole package of a 30-day transformation program that I didn't know what I was doing. Came out as research as OMAD and intermittent fasting and liquid fasting. I just found it something we should be doing on my own experience, because we're trained to eat so much during the day, and we just need to reset our digestive system and repair our gut and detoxify our liver, because everything we do and breathe and smell and eat is overloading our body systems, including our liver. And I am going to go back to talking about metabolic efficiency and burning fat. So going back to my notes, so I stay on track. We need to work on balancing that blood sugar, right? So we know that. So how do you do that? Well, my favorite book that was way ahead of the time, Volek and Finney. It's called Low Carbohydrate Performance Book, The Art and Science of Low Carb, talking about metabolic efficiency. And they kind of are, I think, the pioneers of the industry and all their research they've done on keto adaptation, being fat adapted, burning those fat cells for energy. So the way athletes are trained, coached, and marketed to over the years, still today, are creating a dependency on our carbohydrate loading with sugar-based supplements to avoid that crash or that bonking in the race. We used to carb load before a marathon. When I first started doing endurance events back in the 90s, we'd do a 50K trail run, and I'd see people doing all sorts of sugar drinks and gels and all this high carb supplementation when we're doing this low heart rate, long endurance events that should be fat burning. In Ironman, I still to this day will see people have their gel packets taped to the top of their bike. They're not doing professional level of a race that they're burning probably higher heart rate, burning a little more carbs, but it's still not necessary for age groupers to have all that sugar, high carb supplementation. Again, everybody is different, so you got to find what works for you. Ideally, we can get a metabolic efficiency test on a treadmill and on the bike and figure out what your ranges are, and do a test at rest and figure out what your RQ values are, where your anabolic threshold is, where your metabolic crossover point is, where you stop burning so much fat and you go to more carbohydrate dependency for fuel, which I suggest all athletes do. It's amazing information. You can get to put this all together in a program. Take that with 23andMe genetic testing, upload that into DNA Fit or some genoplates. There's genetics strategy. There's a bunch of different programs you can upload and find out more about personalizing your nutrition and exercise program with your genetics. So I've been coached, DNA Fit program I did earlier this year, and I love to have my clients do 23andMe because then we can upload that raw data and many different websites. So if we eat a high carb diet, we're training the body to depend on those carbs for our fuel while inhibiting fat metabolism and utilization. Volek and Finney explain this in their book, talking about the suppression of fat oxidation lasts for days after carbohydrates are consumed, not just a few hours following their digestion when insulin levels are high. And I think that just makes so much sense. If you stop and think outside the box, you really realize what we've been trained is to do, to how to eat, how to fuel, how to eat during the day to keep our metabolism going is really screwed up. It makes people millions of dollars, or companies millions of dollars, billions. So what happens to you at the end of an Ironman or marathon when you need to dig deep into the pain cave to cross the finish line? When you've used up those carbohydrates, if you were training at a higher heart rate that you're burning mostly carbs, and then you perhaps are doing that carb loading every hour in the race. Well, when you get to a certain point where that muscle glycogen storage is used up and you start to deplete your liver and blood glycogen, your blood glucose levels are lower, then your brain starts to get all screwy too. So you bonk and you feel disoriented and you're dizzy and you end up having to walk to the finish line, or maybe you don't even make it that far. You're having cramping on the side of the road, or maybe you're throwing up, or maybe you're stuck in the porta potty. So if you want to maintain a high level of performance in an endurance event, or if you're not racing any long distance events and you're just trying to live life to the fullest every day, well, we all need to become fat adapted. And that's what the WHOLESTIC Method 30-day transformations program is about, to really coach you how you as a unique individual need to shift the way you're eating, the way you sleep, the way you move during the day, how your stress levels are, work on your digestion, hydration, and our gratitude, happiness levels, so we can become fat burners at rest and during exercise. We want to train our body to utilize fat for its main fuel source, and then be able to be flexible. It's called metabolic flexibility, to go back into the carbohydrate storage as backup when we need it, when we're going to race to that finish line, or maybe you're going to run to that airplane gate if you're late for something. You have to have that availability of carbohydrate storage available for those emergency needs. So if you don't want to deplete the stored glucose in your muscles, that glycogen storage, or in your bloodstream, we need to train the cells to switch to prioritize the fat storage tank over the glycogen tank. Now, how do we do this? Well, in my 30-day program, I'll give you a few tips. We take away those common inflammatory foods, so corn, peanuts, soy, GMO soy, refined sugars, gluten, so our grains, and commercial dairy. Now, we work on eating a time-restricted feeding window. We work on the rest of the time would be intermittent fasting, so we are not eating morning, noon, late evening dinner, and then snacks in between. We're going to train the body to shift to that fat-burning metabolism that we are designed to be, a fat-burning machine. So doing some intermittent fasting, and perhaps in the end of the 30-day program, we start a weekly 24-hour fast. So you can eat your last meal, say on Sunday by 6 o'clock, and then you don't eat your next meal until Monday night, 6 p.m. So that gets to be a little easier if you can do that once a week and really work on another topic we're going to dive into as I get through this new book I got on cell autophagy, working on removing those dead cells out of your body, doing the 24-hour fast or longer for some people. We need to identify our stressors that could be internal or as well as external, because a lot of us, as I say all the time, are living life as a race, doing too much every day. So what I coach my clients as well is on sleep and how you can improve your sleep before bed, different rituals you can do, some relaxation exercises, getting off your computer, stop watching TV, get a book out, write a gratitude journal. Lots of different things that we can do. Wear our Swanee type of blue blocker glasses and music, essential oils, so all that stuff we kind of go into, figure out what some takeaways that you can get for yourself. But we want to get that 7 to 9 hours of sleep because that's when our recovery repair cycle helps. So if we're already was going to bed really late and waking up early, well, you're probably not detoxifying correctly, not recovering and repairing your body and helping you be a fat burning machine, as well as focusing on improving our performance and longevity. Because the main goal is to live a long, healthy life, I would hope, and a happy life. As chronic stress is what I'm talking a lot and writing some seminars about. Chronic stress will impact any efforts to become a fat burning machine. If you are still fasting and eating low carb or a strict keto plan, really going low on your carbohydrates, I think a lot of people don't look at their other lifestyle factors. It's not just changing what you eat, as I said, but when you're eating, how you are feeling, and if you're in a parasympathetic nervous state, if you're in that rest and digest nervous system versus eating in a sympathetic nervous system where a lot of us are sympathetic dominant. So working on slowing down, resetting, rebooting your system so you can eat in the parasympathetic state, so you are digesting your food properly, so we're able to relax and stay into that fat burning metabolism. So Volek and Finney explain in their book what they wrote way back in 2012 now about keto adaptation before it was such a craze as last year or so. So it's taken a long time for keto diets and ketosis and the keto athlete to get out there. But keto adaptation allows for rapid mobilization and utilization of non-carbohydrate lipid fuel sources. This process involves the conversion of fat to ketones in the liver, and these ketones help supply the brain with energy when glucose levels fail. That's in the quote from the Low-Carb Performance book by Volek and Finney. So, to summarize, do you want to go on a road trip and depend on a fuel tank that has 40,000 miles in the tank? Or do you want a tank of gas that's only going to last you 2,000 miles? You'd have to stop at a lot of gas stations along the way to refuel your tank if you select the 2,000 calorie fuel. Now let's next look at the fat oxidation process. How does that work? And then we're going to dive into cell health for performance and longevity. And I do have a lot of great interviews coming up for our Tuesday episode of The Whole Athlete, talking to different companies that I met at the Expo West Natural Products Show earlier this year. A lot of CBD products, a lot of brain fuel, and different supplementation to help transform the whole you from the inside out. gut-brain connection is a real thing, and interesting that to me that there's so many companies out there focusing on brain health and supplementation, as well as all the CBD products coming out. So it's kind of the new thing. But I want to get some research out to you, nutritional science of these products. Why do they have these ingredients in them, in their products? What does it do for us? When should we take them? How we should take them? And what is their product different than someone else's? Because there's a lot to choose from. So hopefully you can find someone in your area to do metabolic efficiency test at rest and exercise for you, as well as finding a nutritional therapy practitioner near you that can do the whole program with you, that we do kind of an intake form, a symptom-based questionnaire, figure out nutritional assessment questionnaire, figure out what symptoms are related to which body systems, which organ that might have dysfunction. And then we do a functional evaluation where we palpate on different reflex points in your body to find out if you have something going on with your digestive system, your stomach, your duodenum, your liver, gallbladder, your small intestine, large intestine, different points there. And then we go into blood sugar regulation, we go into adrenals, mineral balance, essential fatty acid, hydration, immune system, hormones, and detoxification. So that's a whole hour appointment. And then the third appointment, I have them come back and I create a plan based on that information their body gave us in the functional evaluation. Then we test which supplements work for you based on the nutritional assessment questionnaire we did on our first session and based on the information your body gave us in the second session. So the third session, I'm going to test supplements on the body. You can do lingual neural testing that you put it on your tongue, then you go back and palpate those reflex points. Or some people do, what I love to do too, is muscle testing, figure out which supplements are working for you. Because there's, say, 50 different supplements for stress, and you don't know if it's something you need from the HPA axis or something support the brain, something for the adrenals, and there's all sorts of different ones to test. So this way you really can narrow down which supplements are effective on your body. So on a scale 1 to 10, 10, your reflex point before was an 8 out of a 10 being very painful. And then I put a supplement on your body that helps put you back in balance and supports those missing links. And it brings it down to, say, a 4 or lower than that if it's the right one. Sometimes I put a supplement in and it makes it worse. So nutritional therapy practitioners can really help get a specific plan for you. And the fourth appointment we do in my 30-day nutritional therapy program is create a plan. Take all this information together. I combine it with the elements of the WHOLESTIC Method. I hopefully get the 23andMe lab results back. We put that into the program planning, as well as any other labs that I will myself start to do more with people in the future as I become an FDN practitioner. But really creating an individualized program for you based on all this information that we gather together and transform the whole you from the inside out with the WHOLESTIC Method. So hopefully you can find metabolic efficiency tests. So look that up, nutritional therapy practitioner or FDN practitioner, and Keon Coach. I did Ben Greenfield's program last year. It was August to December that we had a weekly call with different topics, and I have a humongous 3-ring folder with all this information and links that we went into all sorts of different topics that are very beneficial to really working on the mind, body, spirit. So that's why I'm calling it the Whole Athlete coaching program. So I not just do Training Peaks, helping people with triathlon, cycling, or running, and those non-athletes that aren't training for anything just want to feel better and find out what the root causes of their unexplained symptoms with nutritional therapy, and put this all in together to a program. So you can learn more at my website that I continuously keep updating and trying to write a blog every week and do a podcast about that blog post. And then I'm also working hard. I've only done 2 workout videos for you to do at home. So I did a hip mobility core Pilates video and just a basic core workout that are about 8 minutes long. And you can find on YouTube if you look up, I think Debbie Potts, the Whole Athlete podcast, but you can find Debbie Potts workouts. And I have just 2 videos on there. So once the weather changes, I'll do more of them in my backyard. All right, guys, please go to the Whole Athlete Podcast Facebook page and leave me any comments. If you can go to iTunes and leave a review for the podcast so more people can find this show that's here to help transform the whole you from the inside out with all sorts of information to help improve your performance, and as well as the long run, we're looking at longevity. So send me your questions. You can also add comments and questions to me via email on debbiepotts.net website. And let's get some new topics for Thursdays. If you want to come on the show and do a Q&A session and be a part of Real Thoughts with Debbie Potts or the Whole Athlete Podcast, just let me know. I'm here to help everyone avoid going through what I did with my adrenal exhaustion or chronic stress or HP axis dysregulation, whatever you want to call it, fatigue, burnout, waking. If you can't figure it out, we can help. So until next time, I hope you enjoy the day and make today the best day ever. All right, I'm out and I'm going to go for a little bike ride and get my fresh air and mental break. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at wholeathletepodcast.com. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.